I've never received so many messages saying people were just inspired by our group of guys and how they competed and everything that they stood for. We've taken a situation that wasn't great and, we've helped convert it into a great situation. He says, anybody ever tell you you look like Rick Carlisle? And I said, well, I've heard that. He goes, no, Rick Carlisle's taller than you. One time I heard somebody talking to him about, don't be starting stuff or whatever. And he said to me, Coach, in my discipline, we don't start things, we finish things. Everybody makes mistakes, Macon. Just look at your wife.
Welcome to the Green Light Podcast presented by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code GREENLIGHT and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code GREENLIGHT. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. If that bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just make sure you use bonus code GREENLIGHT when you sign up. All right, this is a real treat in a couple of ways. Number one, this is somebody that Macon claims to actually be friends with, which is pretty rare, and he's joining the show for a second time. Coach Rick Carlisle. Coach, welcome to the show. What a year you guys had. You broke my heart beating the Knicks, but if it was anybody, I'm glad it was you, and enjoyed watching your team play. Welcome to the show, big guy.
Well, it's good to be back. I hear a lot of the same sentiment from Knicks fans around the country. They're everywhere. But we had a great run. It was a lot of fun, culminating in a game 7 of the finals. And, it was an amazing experience.
Did it feel good to shut up Ben Stiller and Timothy Chalamet?
I actually met Ben Stiller a few years ago at Dirk Nowitzki's tennis event. And he's a great dude, man. He's really awesome. And I didn't talk to him at all during the series. The only guy I talked to, and there's stars everywhere, when you're playing in New York. And game 1, we had sitting right next to our bench. I mean, literally in our huddles was Larry David and Susie Essman, from Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I'm a big fan of that show. And I didn't say anything to them. But I will confess, the one person that I saw that was sitting 2 seats down from where I was sitting on the bench, and I had to go shake hands, was John McEnroe. And he's just, you grow up watching tennis. I mean, this guy was the dude, man. He was larger than life. It was hard not to be a fan. He got everyone captivated with the sport, with the rivalry with him and Borg and all that stuff. And he was super cool. He was super cool. He said a couple of very nice things, but he's the only guy I talked to. But that's the one guy I had to give mad respect to. So anyway, that was game 2, and then it moved on from there.
How real are home court advantages in the NBA, Coach? Because Madison Square Garden is, of course, considered the Mecca, but it's a different type of venue than, say, your place in Indianapolis or the arena in OKC, and Steve Ballmer's built that big wall in Los Angeles. Specifically with that finals, I mean, is that something you can block out, or were those home court advantages real?
Well, they are real. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we played exceptionally well at home. There were some teams that that lost some home games. New York had some losses in a couple of their series. But I think there's a few factors at work here. I think, Chris will probably tell you this too, whether it's football or basketball, when you get a loud crowd, sometimes an elevated level of noise can actually enhance your ability to focus narrower on your team and, whatever your process is. And that's something that we preached as a coaching staff to our guys, was that, we're going to use the noise and the distractions as a means to focus, more concisely on what we need to do from a process standpoint. I mean, there's that, and then there's, officiating has gotten better. I mean, there's a lot of talk about officiating really in every sport, but NBA officiating has gotten better over the years. There's not a heavy leaning toward the home team. The officials in the NBA are under such scrutiny, by the league office. There are all kinds of ways that we can inquire about calls, missed calls, things like that. And so you have that too. And then, when you're in that environment, that hostile environment, you know it's going to be hard, and you just focus on whatever you're doing, and you just attack, and you just keep coming, and you just keep coming. And so, there's that element to it as well. So, it's not impossible to win on the road in the playoffs. It's certainly not easy. It's a lot of work, but it can be done.
Let's say I've got a big lead on the Indiana Pacers in the fourth quarter, late in the game. What should I do offensively? Should I push the pace? Should I slow down? I don't want you giving away your secrets on how you make these big comebacks, but what do you guys like to see? When are you like, hey, they're walking into our trap?
Well, we got you right where we want you. We had a season that featured a lot of comeback wins. We ended up winning 50 games. I mean, the last game of the season we're playing in Cleveland. It appears to be a throwaway game. Cleveland's not playing anybody. We play our guys. We play a lot of our guys, but not all of them. Like half the game, or like a third of the game. Then we shut them down because we know we're going to the playoffs. Both teams have their positions locked up, and so we get into a thing. We get down 19 or 20 in that game, and then in the last quarter and a half, we have 3 two-way guys and a couple of guys that didn't play much for us, who played like 18 minutes in a row. We come back, tie the game, go into overtime, then go into a second overtime and win the game in 2 overtimes. And so, that gets us to 50 wins. And when you get to 50, it's kind of a big deal in the NBA and stuff like that. So that was another comeback, and we had a bunch of them during the year, and so it was an epic year for being able to pull off some seemingly pretty miraculous stuff and making it look commonplace, and it is not commonplace. You have to have a special team. You got to have a team that is going to grind the whole way, that ain't going to quit. You got to have a guy like Haliburton that wants the ball and wants the big shot. A guy like Siakam that's the same. So a lot of things went our way, but there was a high level of character and fortitude on our team that allowed it to happen.
Talk to us about Tyrese going down in that Game 7. He comes out on fire. It seems like you guys have all the momentum, all the pressures on the home team. It looks like it's going to go well, and then you go from that to just what I imagine is utter devastation, and both teams are shocked. The building seems shocked. You guys are up by 1 at halftime. But what's going through your mind when you're standing over him on the court in that moment? And now 2 weeks or so removed, what is his mentality moving forward?
Well, you guys have probably seen some of his comments, and I don't know that he's been on television interviews yet, but it's all very upbeat. I mean, this guy he's just one in I don't know how many, in the NFL, Chris. I mean, I don't know. Every once in a while, you find a guy. You probably had a lot of these qualities yourself, where regardless of the difficulty of the situation, there was going to be a positivity. There was going to be an upbeat projection of I'm going to get through this, and it's going to be okay. And he's just one of those guys. Now in that moment, it's so difficult. I mean, you guys can imagine, what it might be like. That series was, that's a tough series, and you got to give Oklahoma a lot of credit. I mean, they were favored in every game of that series, and that's real pressure. Is when you are the favored team in every game, and we were just attacking. We were just trying to hang in, and give ourselves a chance at the end, and we had not had a great offensive game in that series, partially because they're so good on D. But in Game 7, we came out. Tyrese hit 3 threes in the first 3 or 4 minutes. They called the first timeout, and we had them on their heels, and that was the start that we needed. And then I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes later, the injury happened, and certainly a lot changed. But our guys continue to battle the same way. The dynamics of the game changed. That's pretty obvious. But Nembhard hit a 3 toward the end of the half to give us a 1-point lead going into halftime, and then it's 24 minutes, and so we came out and they hit us with a tough third quarter, got some separation, and we were just unable to get back into it at the level that we needed to. So, very disappointing. I mean, I think that's obvious, but it's just, I don't know. You define success. You search over and over for ways to define what real success is, and it's not always winning the championship. Sometimes it's just you just compete at the best possible level you can, and the chips fall where they may. So, very proud of our organization, our team, and disappointed for sure, but we're going to move forward.
Take me inside that huddle when you guys are trying to gather yourselves after a moment like that, where possibly your best player is down with an Achilles, and it seems to people that play the game and watch sports, you kind of know what it is as soon as it happens. That's got to feel tough to rally guys to snap back into reality. We've seen it in the NFL in a lot of situations. If you watch the NFL, I think back to that Tank Dell injury last year where it's gruesome in the end zone and there's stoppage and there's people crying. It's hard to get back on the field. How hard was it to rally guys to just take the court again and snap back into reality?
Yeah. You guys are asking some tough questions. It's there was the gathering around him on the floor, and then we had to get back to the huddle. And we had won a couple of games during the year without Tyrese, and so look, the guys had the belief. It's we understood the elements that you need to have to win in that situation, whether you have your best player or one of your best players or you don't. I mean, it's still a game of execution. I mean, if you equate it to football, it's it's execution, it's ball security, it's special teams, and you give yourself a chance. And so the third quarter was our undoing in that game. But the third quarter started and we had a different starting lineup out there, and really one, I don't know if we even had used the entire year. I had Mathurin at 2, Neesmith at 3, Nembhard at 1. I'm not sure if we used that lineup once during the regular season. Certainly, I don't think we used it as a starting lineup. So there are just some elements that come on you fast. You adjust as best you can, and you just got to keep moving.
Coach, Chris will tell you that a chyron is a caption on the lower third of a TV screen, shows you, Pacers logo, your name, and then says oldest coach to coach a game in the NBA Finals, which is surprising because you're not such an old guy.
Really?
Yeah. One, did that screen grab get to you? Because I can send it to you if it didn't. And two, I guess the coach speak answer is, well, I've been doing it a long time and the teams are successful, so that's good. But when do you, if ever, start to think about legacy? Because you coach a few more years, you're passing guys like Phil Jackson, Larry Brown on all-time wins. You're already top 10, knocking on the door of top 10 all-time playoff wins, and now there's another trip to the finals on the resume. And you're consistently running circles around teams with superior talent, in my opinion. You should be a surefire Hall of Famer. Does that sort of stuff matter to you?
Well, when I heard the thing about oldest coach ever to coach in the finals, the first thought I had was, how did Popovich skate out of this one?
Yeah.
I mean, and it all comes quickly. Like Chris, I bet in your NFL career, we should play 10, 12 years.
11, yeah, 11.
11 years. So I bet when you got to year 7 or 8, it was like, hey, wow, this is happening fast. It's just so. Next year will be my 24th year as an NBA head coach, and it's coming up on a quarter century. But when you do something you love, when you're challenged every day, when you have the good fortune to work with people that stimulate you to learn every day, and that you can learn from on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, I mean, it flies by. So, the legacy stuff. One thing that I've learned along the way is not to focus on that. It's just to keep learning, trying to keep growing, trying to keep great coaching staffs together, trying to continue to help players get better, and be, just lead as best I can. And so, as I've continued to make that effort, time's a flying. Been fortunate here in Indiana. When I came, I thought the team was pretty good, and then it turned out it wasn't. And there was a guy on the team, TJ Warren, who was going to be one of our key players, who never got on the court because of a foot injury. And then there was one free agent that we're unable to re-sign, and so it turned into a situation that needed to be revamped in a big way. And the trade Sabonis for Haliburton and Hield, really restarted things. Then we started building around those guys, and guys like Nesmith, and some good drafts, and Myles Turner and TJ McConnell fit in. And then, the acquisition of Siakam last year really elevated us to a different level. And so, we've taken a situation that wasn't great, and, we've helped convert it into a great situation. And we have some injury stuff to overcome. We lost Myles Turner to free agency, but we're going to get the wheels on the wagon there. We just traded for Jay Huff, another UVA guy.
Huff, yeah.
Who can really shoot it, and he's going to be part of a center by committee deal, which I've done before, and all this is doable. And so next year, without Tyrese, gives Nembhard a chance to play more of his pure position at point. We develop somebody else at the 2 position, and then a year from now, when Tyrese is coming back into the fold, the hope is that we can go on another run.
In the NBA, you talk about these deep runs, that extend your season, and there's a lot of talk about load management and this, that, and the third, and you guys are stacking another bunch of games on top of that. And in the NFL, teams always amaze me, like the Patriots in the Tom Brady era, where their season ends in February every year. So they've got a month more of football than anybody else. How hard is it when you've gone through this run, injuries notwithstanding, to get people's legs back? Do you have to adjust the off-season schedule? How do guys get their feet back under them with a lot less time to do so?
Yeah, that's a great question. And last year we got to the conference finals, so I think our season was over. I think it was May 28th or something like that. And then, the conference finals this year was an every other day thing. So it was 7 games in 13 days. And so, we won game 1 in New York, and Tyrese takes the shot, it hits the back of the rim, it bounces way up in the air, comes back down. And after the game, I remember talking about, look, it's day 1 of 13. This is a 13-day series.
Yeah.
The thing is, you get into the finals, and the finals is an 18-day series because there's two days between every game except I think it was 3 and 4, which was at our place. And so it is long and it is run out. Now, the good thing about it is with plenty of time between games, you don't get the same kind of fatigue factor. Recovery is more is easier, things like that. But you have the mental grind, and it is the finals, and it's an elevated stage and all that. So, there's plenty going on there. But yes, the off season is different, and we talked to our team about it at the end of the year. Schedules are going to be different. That 18 days in the finals, that's the better part of a month that you're into the summer. And so it's the correct amount of rest, and then you got to get ramped up again. And it's not like maybe it was in the 70s and 80s in the NBA, where training camp was when you came in to get in shape. Like, you got to be in shape when you get to camp. You got to be in shape, and otherwise you're going to be behind the curve, and that's where injuries really can happen in a more frequent basis. So, yeah, it's that. Last couple of years we've been doing the beep test. I don't know if you've ever done the beep test.
We might have a different name for it. What is it? Is it like a catapult type thing, or?
It's a thing where somebody has it on a phone. It's a thing that you go half court and back, and every time there's a beep, you got to start another one. And then there's a beep, and then the beeps become more frequent. It's not, if you're in shape, it's not that hard. It's not like you're sprinting, but it's an endurance thing, and it tests your base, in terms of your conditioning as an athlete. And so, look, we play fast. The catapult GPS data will tell you that our team runs faster and covers more ground than any team in the league, and we're proud of that. And it's one of the reasons we've been able to separate from some teams and to win and to wear some teams down in the playoffs. But the summer has got to be meticulously planned, especially for our veteran players, because what you don't want is the notion that as you come into training camp that guys, need extra days of rest because the season was so long. Mm-hmm. You just don't. I don't think that works. Then you get into a thing where certain guys get treated a certain way, and not, and so you just don't. You want to avoid that if you can. And so certainly you structure practices so they're optimal for everybody.
Yeah.
But it is a different thing, and the mindset coming back has got to be that, hey, we're ready to go to work again. We've gotten the amount of rest we need. We've built it back up, and here we go.
Hey, Make, I got a quick one here. The catapult, you mentioned the catapult scores. I used to refuse to wear my catapult when I was older because I didn't want them to see how slow I was. Make it an eye test thing. Coach, you got to pass your own judgment on that one. Who are your fastest guys? Or who are the most shocking speed guys on your team? Like maybe a big man that could really pick them up and put them down. And you didn't realize it till you threw the catapult on them.
Yeah, truthfully, I don't look that much at the individual data on that.
Yeah.
I would say that of our big guys, Isaiah Jackson. Now he was one of the guys that was injured last year. He's going to be coming back. He's one of the best athletes I've ever seen in any sport.
Really?
His stride, his ability to elevate. I mean, it's otherworldly, and his ability to cover ground. I mean, I don't even know what it would be like a 6'10" defensive back,
Yeah.
that can move like one of those guys. And so I would think he's one. And we have a lot of our perimeter guys. I mean, like interestingly, the big guys, they run from basket to basket. A lot of the time the point guards run from top of the key to top of the key, and the wings run from, a lot of times corner to corner. And so, the amount of, in terms of the amount of ground that's covered, it can vary by position a little bit too.
This guy, James Johnson, have you ever had to see him deal with a problem? If you know what I mean?
We don't have problems because we haven't sitting over there.
James Johnson.
Yeah, it's
how scary. How scary could he potentially be? He doesn't seem like a scary guy because he doesn't seem. When you're a big ass kicking guy, you're either because you have a hammer, everything's a nail, or you understand and you don't look for conflict. He seems like the latter. But how scary could he be?
Yeah. We got to be careful. I don't know where the show goes out to exactly, but he's undefeated. He's an undefeated mixed martial arts guy. I think he's been in 8 or 10 matches, something like that. And one time I heard somebody talking to him about, don't be starting stuff or whatever. And he said to me, Coach, in my discipline, we don't start things, we finish things. And so, that's kind of like all I really needed to hear, if I even needed to hear anything about it, So anyway, he's a special guy. I had him in Dallas. We traded for him. And actually, we signed him as a free agent. It was really good for us. It was the height of COVID. It was all that. He was still a good player, and he had a real charismatic leadership presence in the locker room. Then I came to Indiana, and he was still playing somewhere. I forget where he was, but as we were going into our second year in Indiana, I had said to Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan, our president and general manager, that if we're looking for a great locker room guy to help this team grow, I said, you may not believe this, but James Johnson's one of the best guys I've seen. And James had been in a lot of different places, become kind of a high-level journeyman player, and they were like, really? And so anyway, we ended up bringing him in. He was a big reason that in our second year in Indiana, we were like 5 games over 500 to start, at the beginning of January. And then we had a game in New York, of all places, where all of a sudden Myles Turner couldn't play because his back was tweaked. Tyrese got hurt in the game, fell down, and got a UCL injury, of all things.
Yeah,
which is the Tommy John. It wasn't a full tear of that, but it was a similar thing. And we had 1 or 2 other guys that all of a sudden couldn't go at the beginning of the game. And believe it or not, James Johnson was our starting center. And so we went 2-9 in our next 11 games and fell out of it, and we're in the lottery again. And then the following year was the year we got to the conference finals, which was last year, and then this year was the year that we got to the finals. So James has been a big part of, the growth of our team, and he's just he gives us a lot of substance and a lot of confidence as a locker room leader.
Does it matter that Myles went to Milwaukee in terms of NBA rivalries? Is that rivalry real, whether it's with your players, their players, your fan base? I think there are lots of basketball arguments to be made that Myles may be the best version of himself with a guy like Tyrese around. So that's not exactly the question, but does it matter that he went to the Bucks as opposed to somewhere in the West where you don't see him as much?
I mean, we've played Milwaukee 20 times in 2 seasons. We played them, I think, 11 times last year, including the in-season tournament. And then this year we played them 9 or 10. It was 20 or 21. I forget what it was, because they're in the division. So that's 4 times. And then you play them in the playoffs. That's another 5 or 6 or 7 times, whatever it is. And so it was a lot. Look, losing Myles Turner is a significant loss for our team. I mean, the guy's been a terrific player. He had a great season. And look, we were talking to them, or talking to them, meaning his agent, about him returning. And, really kind of out of nowhere, Milwaukee decided to waive Damian Lillard and stretch his money out over whatever number of years you can do it by rule. And then they created space to sign Myles. And so I think what probably happened, and this is part of negotiation in any sport, a team will say, hey, look, we have this offer. It's this much over this many years. But if we make this offer, we need to know that you're going to take it and not shop it. And so I believe that that's what probably happened with Milwaukee. It was a certain number of years, and they just jumped at it, and there was never a chance to counter. And so those things happen. And when they do, you just got to keep going. I had a nice conversation with Myles the day after, and wished him the very, very best. Special relationship, that I developed with him over 4 years. I mean, he played the best he's ever played. One of the reasons was he got to play his natural position full time. And so that was great for him. So, it allowed him to get $107 million over 4 years. That's great for him. Wish him the best. We'll see them 4 times during the year. And I got a nice message from Doc Rivers after the playoffs. And Doc's a longtime friend. And this is before the Myles thing happened. I just said to Doc, I said, we'll see you in the playoffs next year. I mean, we play these guys every year, It's just like, we both kind of did the LOL thing, on text. So Myles will be fine there. He's a great guy to pair with Giannis. And, things change rapidly.
It's only because we're here talking about the Bucks. This popped into my head. I could not figure out for the life of me what was going on with Giannis wanting the basketball when he scored 64 points. What was going on there? Like, to a layman, what was happening with the basketball? What was the miscommunication?
I'll tell you what, you guys are
hard hitting shit.
Shit stirrers, you know that?
Yeah, it's 10 in the morning. We decided to just fucking hit you with it right out of the gate.
That was the height of that was last year's, as things were building between the two teams, because we'd had some heated games, and we had the in-season game and all that stuff, and he had 64 points, and then we had a guy, Oscar Tshiebwe from Kentucky, who was on a 2-way contract that scored his first NBA points of his career in that game.
Yes.
So we were trying to just get the game ball, or there's always a secondary game ball. We didn't care which ball. It's just a symbolic thing,
Yeah.
And then it just things got kind of heated, and
Yeah.
I really don't want to go into it any more than that, other than to say that I think I don't ever think we had the real game ball, and I'm pretty sure that I'm certain, because the camera feed showed that they had the original game ball all along. But look, it made for compelling stuff, for the league. I mean, on some level, it fed the kind of the building rivalry. If you want to say there's a rivalry, I'm not big into talking about that stuff, because those things happen organically over time, and I'm not into labels and all that kind of crap. It just doesn't matter. You got to get out on the floor. You got to try to win a game, or win a series, and that's kind of it.
So, Coach, I got a label for you. Pacers play hard-nosed basketball. You guys press. You guys run. We've talked about that. How long does it take to get that out of guys who aren't used to it? It seemed like there was an uptick in that sort of thing, that full court defense as the season went on. Like, how do you get guys to buy into that in today's NBA? And is it more like self-selective, like the people that you're selecting fit the culture, or is there a process where you can, kind of onboard these guys and bring them up to speed?
Well, it starts with competitors who are great people. So luckily we had a lot of those kind of guys on our team. We identified really a couple of years ago that if we're gonna play at the pace that we want to and is best for us in the playoffs, it's going to require that we do something to generate that. And so what that became was full court pressure. And so you got guys like Nembhard, who's a natural ass kicker, of a competitor, Neesmith, McConnell, guys like that. Tyrese has become one of those guys. Turner, Siakam. I mean, these guys were willing to do that, and they saw that this was our means for success. Our guys off the bench, same way. Obi Toppin picking up full court. Mathurin, Ben Shepherd, all these guys. And so Isaiah Jackson, who I mentioned before, we have athletes that are hard-charging guys. And so it was, this became a necessity for us. And so we did it last year, and then we needed to do it again this year. And it's become part of our DNA, and now we draft to it. And in free agency, we make sure that the guys that we're talking to are hard charging competitors. Otherwise, we can't have guys that aren't willing to, go all out, pick up full, all that, and like even running on offense. I mean, it sounds good. Like every NBA player will tell you, yeah, I want to run. Well, until you realize the commitment that's involved. And so it takes special people. But, it started with the character of guys that we had, and then we kind of built it up from there as a means to whatever success we were going to have.
I mean, Reggie Miller being there for these games, is that a cool wrinkle for you guys to walk back into the locker room or through the hallway and be able to see him after a game? After a win or after a loss, I saw him kind of embracing some of the guys on the team. There's not really an NFL comp for that. When Brady's up in the booth doing a Patriots game, he's not down in the tunnel. It is a little bit more of a removed kind of dynamic. Was it cool to have Reggie along for the ride there?
Yeah, it was just tremendous. I mean, Reggie was there with his son, My daughter was at Game 7. She's 21. She'll be a third year at UVA. She was at Game 7. She was at Game 6 as well. And, these moments are hard to describe. I'll tell you guys this. This is, and I shared this on my radio show after the season was over. But you try to think about the right thing to say before going out for Game 7 on the road. And somebody had texted me, a guy who was a writer in Indianapolis for many years. He'd covered the team for a pretty significant amount of time. His name's Mark Monteith. And he texted me that the 3 ABA championships that the Pacers won, it was 70, 72, and 73. 1970, it was against the Los Angeles Stars in LA. 72 was against the New York Nets in New York. And 73 was against the Kentucky Colonels at Kentucky. And in 73, it was a Game 7. The other two were Game 6s. And Mark texted me, he said, in every one of those games, Slick Leonard, who was the greatest coach in Pacers history, 529 wins, said the same thing to his team before they went out. And so we had found something had shown up on Instagram, which was like a minute and 45-second kind of history of the Pacers. At one point, they had to have a telethon to save the franchise. The franchise was about to fold. Nancy Leonard, who was Slick Leonard's wife, was the general manager at the time. She got it going. It went through that. After Game 6 against New York this year, Myles Turner embraced Nancy Leonard, who's 93 years old. All this. So we showed that to give these guys a sense of history and what they were playing for. And then as we got together in the locker room and got the players ready to go out, I said to them, I said 3 times in the history of this franchise, they won championships in the ABA. 3 times they did it on the road. All 3 times, Slick Leonard, the greatest coach in Pacers history, said the same thing to those guys, which I'm going to say to you guys right now. Walk out there like you own the damn place. And our guys went out there, and we had the best start to a game you could possibly imagine. It appeared we were headed for our best offensive game, where offense was hard to come by against those guys. And then, they called the first time out, and our guys were juiced, and they were a little shook, and their building was a little shook too. And then 3 or 4 minutes later, the injury happened, and so that's sports. That's sports. But, this is funny. I was in Charlottesville 3 days ago. You'll love this story. I was at a fast food restaurant. I'm over by the drink machine.
Okay.
And there's a guy there. He says, anybody ever tell you look like Rick Carlisle? And I said, well, I've heheard that. He goes, no, Rick Carlisle's taller than you. I said, yeah, he's probably taller. And he goes, I bet Rick Carlisle doing good right now. I said, well, what do you mean? Did you follow the Pacers? He goes, yeah, they won the championship. So I've never received so many messages saying about how people were just inspired by our group of guys and how they competed and everything that they stood for, And so, one guy thinks we won the championship, you think about the whole thing, and, even though it wasn't the ultimate win, it was a win.
No, it really did feel like you guys were so tight, and I'm sure a lot of it is the culture you set, but also the things that you ask them to do. When you ask guys to do things that are extra and that are non-standard, you're going to get a non-standard bond between guys on the team. And you could really feel that. You could feel that watching your team. And the thing I was wondering is like, hey, you've lost as a player, right? You've lost an NBA Finals as a player. You won them and you've lost them. And I can remember getting ready for the Super Bowl, the very first time I ever played in a Super Bowl. And my buddy Rob Nikovich told me, hey, this is going to be one of the best days of your life. But if we lose, you're going to wish you never played in the game. You're going to wish you went 0-16. And I don't get the sense that it's that feeling when you walk back into a locker room with that group of guys. Can you, without violating that space, give me an idea of what it feels like when, and you know what I mean, but after a loss, it's like finally you get back to the locker room and guys let it go. You know, and maybe that doesn't happen immediately. Maybe it's the plane ride home. What's that grieving process like for that team?
Well, first of all, I mean, you got to picture this. Our guys are walking back to the locker room, and Tyrese Haliburton is in a boot on crutches in the hallway greeting them.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And the first thing I did was I yelled for my president, Kevin Pritchard. I said, Kevin, are we going to have exit meetings tomorrow? Because this doesn't feel. He goes, no. Because we got a couple free agents. I'll talk to them. But we can't put our guys through that. And so we agreed on that. And so, you know, look, getting into this, and you take your experiences of the past, and you try to prepare your guys for what's happening. And one of the things I told them before that series, the final series ever started, is I said, you get to the NBA Finals, there's no such thing as losing and having a feel-good year. It just, the stakes are raised so high. You're on this elevated stage. I said this will be the 6th time I've been to the finals, and the feeling of losing is it's just never going to be a good thing, you know. And so one of the things headed into it is, guys, we're going to some. This is the point of no return. we are going for this. Here's our process. Here are the simple things we're going to focus on. You know, we thought Oklahoma was the best team, but they hadn't been in a lot of close games the entire year. I mean, their point differential was historically high. I mean, so our thing was let's get these guys in some close games and put some pressure on them, you know. And so, you know, we were able to do that, and we won a couple games, you know, by some margins, you know. So anyway, that was the whole thing. But, you know, you walk back and it's over, and there are no more games. You've played the last game. The last game was scheduled on June 22nd, and it was day 18 of the entire thing, you know. And before the game, there had been this thing leaked where Oklahoma had their parade buses already painted. These are buses with open tops. Somebody had leaked that before Game 7. And so, you know, I mentioned it at my pregame press conference just because, you know, I mean, you're looking for anything, you know, and at that point in time, being absolutely truthful, there's no sin in that, you know. So there was so much going on, you know, and I told you guys about the leading up to the beginning of the game, all that stuff. And then, but as you are kind of downloading at the end, I mean, you know, we're about to get on a plane back to Indy on, you know, it's an hour and 40-minute plane ride. Just think, I mean, if Portland had been playing Miami in the finals, that would have been like a 6.5-hour plane ride. We're taking like an hour and a half plane ride. It was one of the it was a lot easier to get to Oklahoma City and play than it was to get to New York. Mm-hmm. Because New York, you got to go through a lot to get into the place, the traffic, all that, and then to get to the Garden. I mean, the Paycom Center is right across the street from the Omni Hotel, which is a brand new hotel. I mean, this is the best physical setup you're ever going to get for finals on the road, So anyway, it was all in all, sum it all up, it was an amazing experience. Very disappointing, certainly on the one hand, but very proud on the other.
And is there any truth to the rumor that you're now resigning your legendary NBA career to become general manager of the University of Virginia men's basketball program?
I heard that this morning, actually.
Well, there's no truth to that, but I am.
A boy can dream.
This is my 20th year as president of the NBA Coaches Association. In 2005, I was elected president at a meeting that I wasn't even at, and I'm still a little pissed at some people from 2005 about that. But that's been an amazing run. But this is my 10th term, and I've informed everyone that this will be my last. And so we'll have a new president on January 1st of 26. But that's the only thing I'm resigning.
How would the transfer of power be?
Very easy.
Okay, good. The next president will want to hear that.
I think the terminology is transfer of responsibility. I wouldn't call it power.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, you got plenty of them, man. We just so appreciative of the time you gave us, and what a year. I mean, seriously. I mean, you already know, nothing to hang your head about. But as a football player watching a basketball series, I had a lot of respect for your group, man. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Well, appreciate being on with you guys. I've been to a few of UVA's basketball practices. I'm very optimistic about the kind of year that they're going to have.
Yeah,
they had a lot of talent. I love Ryan Odom. I love his staff. I've learned a lot watching them. So, just want to give a shout out there and make sure that Wahoo Nation is excited. So we'll look forward to that.
Yes, sir. Last one. How's Macon's golf game? Improving or stuck in the mud?
I haven't played with him this year.
Not this year.
He's trying to convince me to buck the rules over there and get a golf cart with a black top instead of a tan top.
That's the only thing I care about.
He's recalcitrant by nature.
That's a good word.
So I'm giving it consideration, but we'll have to see.
Coach,
he does have an uncooperative attitude towards authority or discipline.
That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous characterization. Coach said maybe we'll get a meal or play some golf. I ignored the golf part because it's not going so hot at the moment. But we're going to get in the lab.
Okay.
Because when Coach hangs it up in a decade, I'll have my game ready to go.
We got to get you with Bob Rotella. He's just down the road.
Yeah, you're right.
Bob Rotella would be
That's
good.
The missing piece.
Can he help people that do podcasts too? That would help.
I would think so.
Okay, good.
I would think so.
Coach Carlisle, appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the off season.
All right, you guys be well. Take care.